Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Monatui, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today we are going over our NPL Season 7 Week 8 match and team builder versus Aberforth, coach of the Newcastle Umbreon. If you've not done so already, please check out his YouTube link in the description below. He's a good friend of mine, very good coach as well. I apologize that, again, this video is late. Like I mentioned in my last video, it'll be a few hours late. This will be going up a little bit later than Abe's version, so if you want to see Abe's perspective of the match, definitely check out his YouTube link like I mentioned earlier. So last week we played Shoddy. We did not prep well at all. We didn't really play all that well either. So hopefully this week is going to be something that we can improve upon from last week, and I feel like with the team of 6 that I've built, I definitely have. I feel like the matchup in this game is a little bit more favorable to me than it was versus Shoddy, but regardless, I could have prepped a lot better versus Shoddy and possibly had a much better outcome. Regardless, let us go over Abe's roster, Abe's potential mons to bring. Abe has his Tapu Koko, Salamence, which is his Z user. He has Mega Scizor, Nidoking, Celebi, Sneasel, Darmanitan, Melodic, Smeargle, Hoopa Confined, and Linoon. So as you can see there, he has a very threatening team, pretty much top to bottom. Smeargle's not the biggest deal in the world, but it absolutely can be annoying depending on what it decides to bring. He has very good wall breaking potential in Tapu Koko, regular Salamence, Nidoking. Even things like Darmanitan, even things like Hoopa Confined are very difficult to switch into. He also has potential to bring Linoon, which is not the biggest threat to me, but it's just always super scary because of the way the new berries work and whatnot. You know, you belly drum, you go down to 50%, and then you get 50% of your health back with Gluttony because of the Figgy Berry. But regardless, I believe I have built a team of 6 that will be able to deal with whatever team of 6 he decides to bring, and so we will be going over that now. Starting off, we have a little bit different of a Mega Lopunny set, not crazy different, but we'll be getting into it. As you can see, we have Return, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, and Fake Out, so we have no Fighting Stab on this Mega Lopunny. I don't really need it this week. The only thing that Fighting Stab would hit a little bit harder would be something along the lines of his Linoon, but Return does plenty of damage to that. He's not going to be setting up against Mega Lopunny anyway. Sneasel, Wyoko anyway with Return. We would be hitting Darmanitan a little bit harder, but after Rock's Return knocks that out more than likely anyway. We would like to hit the Melodic a little bit harder, but again, I feel like this coverage for his team is going to be a little bit more important. I really need Fire Punch so that if he's a bulky, physically defensive Mega Scizor, I'll be able to hit that thing for a 2-KO, which is very nice. I need Ice Punch because Salamence is just such a huge issue. I want to be able to hit that thing as hard as physically possible. And then hopefully we won't miss having High Jump Kick for extra damage on things like the Melodic and things like the Linoon, but obviously that could happen. Regardless, this is going to be our Mega Lopunny. This is going to be very important in this game. It revenge kills the entirety of his team, which is very nice. It outspeeds Tapu Koko, which is very good. I can hit that thing with a Return and knock it out. If it's weakened, I can hit Salamence with the Ice Punch, and if he is Z, even after the Intimidate, it'll be doing a lot of damage and potentially knock it out depending on the set. Mega Scizor, again, if he's bulky or even if he has like some HP invested, Fire Punch won't OHKO, but I will be able to do a lot of damage to hit and at least prevent him from setting up successfully. Nidoking, again, I can hit with Return and knock it out after some chip damage. Celebi is going to be the biggest stop to this Mega Lopunny, just because Return is not going to be a 2-KO. It doesn't really get anything that can 2-KO Celebi. However, I do have some things on my team that can deal with that we'll be getting into in a bit. It can OHKO the Sneasel, it can do a lot of damage to Darmanitan. Melodic, again, has to be physically defensive in order to deal with me. Smeargle can get faked out and then get knocked out by the Return. Obviously, he could be running like Spiky Shield or King Shield or Protect or something along those lines, but regardless, the option is there for me to be able to deal with it. Also, with this speed investment, I do outspeed a Timid Scarfed Hoopa Confined, which is very nice. I'll be able to fake that out and knock it out with Return afterwards. And then again, we do have Return for the Linoon, which is a big threat to my team, but I should be able to deal with it. Not just because we have Lopunny, which does a lot of damage to it, but we have Mimikyu, which blocks its extreme speed anyway. So there's that. Next up, we are going to cover our Kyurem. As you can see here, we are Ice Beam, Hidden Power Fire, Toxic Roost, the Beery Berry, Max Speed Timid. This will allow me to at least speed tie with his Darmanitan, which even though I do not do a ton of damage to, with Rock Sub, he's not going to want to switch into Ice Beam. Toxic is also there in order to weaken it, which is very nice. Toxic also, the only thing that Toxic does not hit is going to be his Mega Scizor and Nidoking. With Nidoking, I hit super effectively an OHKO with the Ice Beam. With Mega Scizor, I do a lot of damage too with the Hidden Power Fire, and that is why we have the Beery Berry, so I can take a Bullet Punch from a reasonable amount of health and fire back that Hidden Power Fire. From full, I can live a +2 Bullet Punch. He has to weaken me a little bit at least to knock me out with a +2 Bullet Punch, which is very nice. Kyurem is very naturally bulky. Just a very big threat for his team in general. It threatens the Celebi, which is very nice. These two are a very good pair this week. Again, just so I can threaten that Celebi a little bit more. Sneasel does not Oko me with anything, which is nice. I can hit that thing with the Hidden Power Fire and knock it out after rocks potentially. Toxic is also there for the Melodic, because if he is any sort of bulky Melodic, Draco Meteor is not guaranteed to a KO, so I will be able to go for Toxic onto that and wear him down, and then there's not really much he can do back to me unless he has Toxic of his own, which if he does, fair enough, but regardless, this is a very good way to deal with it anyway. Hoopa Confined has to go for Focus Blast in order to knock me out, and I believe that's not a guaranteed knockout if he's not Life Orb or Specs, but, you know, regardless. And then obviously Lanoon I do hit very hard with the Ice Beam as well, so very big offensive threat versus his team. I have the Roost on there as well to be able to beat the Melodic 1v1 in order to beat certain things on his team 1v1. I will be able to keep this thing around for quite a while. I'll be able to hard switch it into things like Celebi, hard switch it into things like the Melodic, take the hits that they want to go for, throw off Toxics, throw off attacks, and then potentially Roost off the damage later on. So very important Pokemon to have on this team. Next up, we are going to be running our Manectric. We have Choice to our Manectric this week. This is the first time this season that we have brought our Manectric, but it has a very important role this week. Like I mentioned earlier, Mence is just a huge problem. Just like, when you look at my team, it just kind of wrecks it if it's Dragon Dance, Fly, Dragon Claw, Earthquake. That kind of just hurts the entirety of my team quite a bit. It's also very, very naturally, well, not very naturally fast, but pretty naturally fast. It outspeeds everything on my team at +1, except for now my Choice Scarf Manectric. Now, I was very, very close to running Signal Beam on this thing so that I can 2-hit KO the Celebi, because the Flamethrower, if he's a bulky Celebi, which I expect him to be, will not actually 2-hit KO, and I don't want to be running Overheat, because if my special attack drops, he can potentially go into Mega Sizzler and set up on me, which I do not want to happen. Regardless, Flamethrower just does plenty of damage to that thing anyway. Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Flamethrower, HP Ice, relatively standard set, but this is a set that is very important versus his team. His one ground type in Nidoking is his only electric immunity on the team, and I will be able to smack that thing for a potential 2-hit KO with Hidden Power Ice. Nidoking is not something I happily switch into, however, it is something that I do offensively check very well with my team. So that's going to be very important to have this Manectric as well as the rest of my team being able to deal with that. Again, it's always risky for him to hard switch into Nidoking, which is very good. Also, because he has his own Tapu Koko, unless he is Choice Scarf, I will be able to outspeed that, and because he does have his own Tapu Koko, my Thunderbolts and my Volt Switches will be boosted while he has the Electric Terrain up, which is going to be very nice, because he actually does not have great electric switch-ins. He has Nidoking and he has Celebi, and that is it. Celebi is very dangerous for him to switch in because of Flamethrower, and Nidoking is very dangerous for him to switch into because I do have HP Ice. And if I think he is going to Celebi in order to take whatever he wants to go into, I can just go for Volt Switch, gain myself some initiative into something like my Tyranitar to deal with it, something like my Mimikyu to deal with it, or something like my Kieran to deal with it. So that is going to be our Manectric. Again, it's very, very useful versus his team. Also threatens the Melodic, which my team doesn't love to deal with. But after that, we then have our Mimikyu. And as you can see, we are once again the same set of Mimikyu that I've been bringing basically every week. I feel like this is just its best set. Fairy Ghost is just so spammable and so good. Priority Shadow Sneak is so important, and then obviously Swords Dance is very important because it doesn't hit very hard naturally. But we are bringing Jolly Mimikyu. This is enough speed to outspeed a timid Nidoking by 2 points, which is very nice. Obviously, I can't drop 4 EVs because then I'd speed tie, and then this just makes me outspeeded by 2, or basically by 1 EV. Regardless, very, very good Pokemon versus his team. He does not have a good Ghost Resist at all. His Ghost Resist is Sneasel, and then Lanoon, neither of which really deal with me all that well. Sneasel, if my disguise is broken, then he can deal with me, but he can't knock me off because I have Ghost Minium Z, so that won't be able to knock me out. And then he's kind of relying on an Icicle Crash flinch, which, you know, is a little bit difficult to do because obviously it's not super reliable and he always can miss Icicle Crash as well. And plus, you know, I can knock out Sneasel with a player off anyway, so there's no real point to that. Again, just Fairy Ghost is so good against his team. It hits everything so hard. If I get up to +4, I knock out Darmanitan after rocks, which is very nice. I outspeed the Nidoking and can hit that thing with a +2 Shadow Claw and do a lot of damage to it. Mega Sizzler is this thing's really only good check on his team. Like, Hoopa Confined I knock out with Shadow Sneak. Mega Sizzler, again, Mega Sizzler just the only really good stop to Mimikyu, and even then, if I get up to +2, a never-ending nightmare from this thing is going to hurt quite a bit. And he needs to be kind of defensive in order to take that, and he needs to have Roost in order to fix himself from the damage that I'm going to do to him. But if I do get up to +4, I believe the Ghost Mini MZ Shadow Claw will be able to knock him out, which is very nice because being able to get rid of Mega Scizor is great for things like my my Tyranitar and whatnot. Even it's not like great for certain things, but it can be really good for my Kyurem just so it can't threaten me with Bullet Punch anymore, even though I do have the Bibiri Berry. If I am able to get rid of Mega Scizor with this thing, that's me just getting rid of this thing's biggest check anyway on his team, so then he has even less to deal with Mimikyu, which is really nice. He'd have to go for a Z-move or an Iron Tail with Salamence in order to knock me out. I can stop it from spamming Outrage. This is just a very good Mon versus his team. Once again, just a very valuable Pokemon that I'm really going to enjoy having. Also, as you can see, I have some HP in there. Having some bulk on Mimikyu is good, just so I can take a little bit less from things like Sludge Wave, Nidoking. I can take less from Sneasel, and I'm not super concerned about being able to outspeed Darmanitan. It's more than likely going to be Choice Scarf if it comes anyway, and I would rather just hit that thing with a Shadow Sneak rather than trying to outspeed it and hit it with a Shadow Claw. Regardless, that's going to be our Mimikyu, and now we are going to move on to the next member of our team. And we have a similar set that we have to the Lopunny. Obviously, we have the Dual Punch set up once again, just because Ice Fire is very, very good versus his team. And then, as you can see, we have Crunch. With the Ice Punch, I don't really need Stone Edge, because with Ice Punch, I can hit the Nidoking super effectively, and with Ice Punch, I can hit the Salamence super effectively, even harder than I would with Stone Edge. Or like the same, whatever, I don't feel like doing math right now. I think it's the same. Yeah, because 75, 150, 300, then Stone Edge is 150 and 300. Regardless, Ice Punch is more reliable and can freeze things, and Stone Edge is neither of those things. So that's very good for me. Obviously, we also have Crunch there to hit the Celebi. Celebi can't really OHKO me with anything unless he's got a very powerful, like, Specs Leaf Storm or something like that. As you can see, we have the Shuka Berry. That's going to be very useful in order to take an Earth Power from the Nidoking. It can take an Earthquake from the Darmanitan a lot better. It can take even like an Earthquake from the Salamence. He has to have run Iron Tail, get to like +1, and then he can potentially knock me out. Because obviously I take whatever else he wants to go for, which is very nice. I'll bar like a Devastating Drake if he does decide to run that. Then we can get to the HP investment. We have a lot of HP in here, 160. That should be, I believe that is so that I can take a +1 Earthquake from neutral, or from a non-boosting item Salamence. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe that's what that's there for. With this amount of HP investment, I also take Scizor. I believe this is so that I can take a +1 Tectonic Rage with the Shuka Berry, if I'm not mistaken. But with this HP investment, I also take Bullet Punches better from the Scizor, which is very, very useful. I can also take on the Nidoking's Earth Power a little bit better, because like I said, I am Shuka Berry. With this much HP, I also take very little from, not very little, but I don't really take all that much from Tapu Koko's Dazzling Gleam, which is very nice. I can live a hit from that, get up rocks, or go for Fire Punch or Ice Punch and whatnot. As you can see, this is also our rocker. Again, I can threaten out the Salamence and then just get up my rocks, which is very good. I can threaten out the Darn if it's locked into Flare Blitz. I can threaten out certain things on his team like the Hoopa Confined. So this is, again, just a very good Pokemon versus his team. The Dual Punch is very important, the Crunch is very important. It's very difficult for him to switch into, and if I can force a switch into one of his very few switch-ins, I will be able to get up rocks with this thing, which is very, very nice. Also, the Jolly Speed is kind of just there to speed creep the Mega Scizor. I'm not sure how much speed he'd run, but this is... I feel like he'd want to hit something like 220, and I decided to hit 221. It's basically just a guess, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Try and see if I can hit it. If he does end up outspeeding it, and is able to hit me with a U-turn or something, at least then I know that he's running a lot of speed on his Scizor. And if he is running a lot of speed on his Scizor, then my Mimikyu can potentially knock it out with +2 Ghost Move, and then it's weaker to my Mega Lopunny. So that'll just be good information for me to know. Then, for the last member of our team, we have our Gliscor. We are also running 297 speed on this so that we can outspeed that Nidoking, Earthquake, U-turn, Taunt, and Roost. Depending on his Celebi set, we will be able to outspeed it and hit it with a very powerful U-turn. That's going to be very good. Again, we do outspeed a non-Choice Scarf Nidoking, so we will be able to smack that thing with an Earthquake. We are not OHKO'd by Tapu Koko's HP Ice, which is very nice, I believe, unless he's running Life Orb or something along those lines. So we will be able to live that and hit him with the Earthquake, which is very good. Taunt is very, very useful so that I can stop the Scizor from setting up Swords Dances, which is very good. I can also stop the Lanoon from going for Belly Drum if I do outspeed it, which I believe I will, because I don't think... Well, actually, no. If he's running like max speed Adamant, then he will be able to outspeed me. If he's running Jolly, then he'll be able to outspeed me. But regardless, this is a good set versus his team. Sneasel cannot hard switch into me, or else it will take a U-turn or an Earthquake, and neither of those he really wants to take. Salamence is a problem to this, however, that's largely why, again, we have that Scarf on Manectric. I can take one of anything he wants to go for, or if he goes for Dragon Dance, I can U-turn out, get a slow U-turn on him, and then go out into my Manectric, outspeed him, and then knock him out with a Choice Scarf HP Ice, or possibly go out in my Tyranitar in order to deal with it. I wanted to have Ice Fang on this, but I really just couldn't fit it. I need the Earthquake, I need the U-turn, I need Taunt, and I really want that recovery and Roost so I can deal with things like the Scizor and well, mainly the Scizor. I really need it for the Scizor, because otherwise Scizor kind of wrecks me. Even though I do have some ways to deal with it, Bullet Punch is very spammable across my team, since my Steel Resist is just a Manectric. And then even with the Babiri Berry, that's not a guaranteed stop to it, because HP Fire doesn't OHKO it from full. Lopunny lives +2 generally, but he just needs a little bit of chip damage off onto that, and obviously I have Mimikyu, which doesn't deal with it too well. So I really needed something to just deal with that Mega Scizor, and this is a set that will be able to do it, with Taunt as well as Earthquake. So I needed Roost, I needed these moves. I can't really fit Ice Fang, but hopefully I'll be able to deal with the Salamence without it. If he is a Dragon Dancing Salamence, I'll be able to U-turn out on it into one of these things to deal with it, and if it's like a Scarf variant, then it's a little bit less threatening to me. But without further ado, let us now get into the game that we had versus Abe, so I'll be right back. Okay, and here we are with the game versus Abe. As you can see, we decided to bring the team of 6 that we showed off in the team builder, and Abe has decided to bring his Tapu Koko, Salamence, Celebi, Mega Scizor, Nidoking, and Hoopa Confined. The only thing I'm kind of surprised about there is the Hoopa Confined, just because Tyranitar can come in and click Pursuit if it's Scarfed and it dies whether he switches out or not. But regardless, it is there. I'm very happy not to see the Melodic. That could have been very annoying for me, even though I do have ways to deal with it. I'm very happy not to see things like the Darmanitan or Sneasel, because I don't have great responses to either of those, as you saw from last week versus Shoddy, or a couple weeks ago versus Shoddy with the, last week when he had a Weavile and it wrecked my face. But regardless, this is the team of 6 we decided to bring, that's the team of 6 he decided to bring. We are just going to get into this game. As you can see, I decided to lead with my Mega Lopunny, as he decides to lead with his Hoopa Confined, and he is going to want to switch out, because Fake Out plus Return will be able to knock him right out. And as you can see here, I am going to go right for that Fake Out, not wanting to overpredict, as he reveals the Rocky Helmet on his Celebi. However, that did do quite a decent bit amount of damage, so it's looking like he's not a very bulky Celebi. As you can see here, I'm just going to go on my Gliscor. I can take whatever this +2 Celebi wants to go for. Unfortunately for him, he's going to end up actually missing the Zen Headbutt. So again, it wouldn't have knocked me out, but it did have the chance to flinch, and it would have done some damage at least. But what I can do now is just go right out into my Mega Lopunny, click Ice Punch, attempting to knock him out. And the fact that I revealed Ice Punch plus Return, I'm hoping, I actually wanted to reveal Ice Punch there, because I'm thinking, if I reveal Return and Ice Punch plus Fake Out, he might be thinking that my last move is High Jump Kick. He may not be expecting the Fire Punch, which I am actually packing for the Scizor. So even though it looked like I was giving away information there, I was giving away information that I wanted to give out. I didn't want him to go in. I didn't want him to not think. I didn't want him to wonder if I had Fire Punch or not and think about it later. I wanted him to think that I did not have Fire Punch. Regardless, he's going to go into a Salamence. The fact that he actually hard sends it in means he might be Yachi or Scarf. By the fact that he just immediately clicks Outrage, no balls, or well, not no balls, the opposite of no balls, big balls, and goes right for the Outrage, I'm thinking he's actually going to end up being Choice Scarf, because if he were a Yachi variant, he would have wanted to rather have Dragon Claw. I'm thinking he's going to have Outrage and Dragon Claw, just because Dragon is pretty spammable versus my team, plus like Earthquake. But what this allows me to do is actually go right for the Swords Dance with my Mimikyu, because he's obviously locked into the Outrage. And I was very close to expecting his Roost and going for another Swords Dance, but unfortunately I make the safer play. I just go right for the Z move, he lives, and then he's just going to go right for the Roost, making a very good play onto me. However, what I can do now is actually save my Mimikyu's disguise, since I can set up later, and go right out into my Manectric. He does get a crit, and that's going to do quite a bit of damage to me. However, it's not the biggest deal in the world, and now I'm going to make a very important play this game. I'm going to go for Volt Switch, expecting him not wanting to go out into his Nidoking. If I were to go for HP Ice there, he would have been potentially 2 KO'd, and he did not want that. He wanted his Nidoking healthy so that he can take on the Mimikyu a little better, take on the rest of my team a little bit better. So I decided to go right for the Volt Switch, expecting him to go on the Hoopa, which does have very good Spadef and can take the HP Ice or Thunderbolt or whatever easily. I do go for that Volt Switch, and then I do just go right for that Return, which will be able to knock out this Hoopa Confined, which is very, very nice for me. That was a big threat to my team gone. And now he's going to send out his Nidoking. I can't OHKO him with Return, So I'm just going to go out into my Tyranitar and stack it off. It's not doing too much else versus this game. It's dying to the Scizor, it's dying to the Mentor's Earthquake, it's dying to Tapu Koko's Dazzling Gleam. So I will just stack it off and allow myself to get a free switch into my Kyurem, which will be able to pick up a kill. He had to stack something on his team because Scizor would have gone down to Ice Beam plus Hidden Power Fire, and he is fearing me being the Berry. Tapu Koko would not have wanted to switch in. Obviously, Salamence didn't want to switch in, so he just decided to stack his Nidoking there. Now he's going to send in his Tapu Koko, and I can live the Dazzling Gleam, and I do want to get damage onto this for Fake Out in case he's potentially Scarf. So I'm going to go right for the Ice Beam as he actually goes for Calm Mind, which is a bit of an issue. However, even at +1 Spadef, my Ice Beam is able to do a decent amount of damage, and with the stand-up, I'm doing about 50%, so he's not really gaining much out of this, but I see that he is roost stalling me to attempt to stall me out of sand so that he can set up safely. However, because I do have Toxic, I will be able to go for it there, as he ends up going for the Hidden Power Ice, which I think is actually a little bit of a misplay, unless he was expecting me to go into my Gliscor, because Thunderbolt will do a lot more in the electric terrain, even though it's resisted. But however, I will be able to roost that off, and now, unless he goes for T-Bolt again and is able to get the same roll, which he will not be able to because the electric terrain is gone, he will not be able to knock me out, and I will be able to roost off that damage, meaning he now has to go out into his Mence in order to kill me. So he's going to go into Mence. He cannot set up if he is set up, even though I am expecting him to be Choice Scarf with the Moxie as well. He's going to knock me out with a Dragon Claw. This allows me a safe switch into my Mimikyu, which can go for Swords Dance here, seeing as he has to switch out into his Mega Scizor, and we are going to go right for that Shadow Claw, as a crit at +2 does not do 67% to the Scizor. He lives on like 1 HP, and then he's able to get himself back to 51%. I know he's going to go for the Roost again, so I'm just going to go for the next Swords Dance, and then do a lot more damage to him, potentially putting him in range of Volt Switch, so that I will be able to Volt Switch out versus this thing, go into my Gliscor and be able to potentially deal with the Salamence. However, because Mega Scizor is so naturally bulky and Mimikyu's kind of weak, the +4 Shadow Claw is not going to be doing too much, and I do have to go for Flamethrower onto a Scizor, which could have led to some 50-50s going on if he did switch out into his Salamence, but regardless, this now allows me to win the game 100% of the time, because now he can go for the Outrage, hit my Mega Lopunny, knock it out, get the +1 attack. But because he's actually not guaranteed in range of Hidden Power Ice, I don't really want to risk going for Hidden Power Ice, not knocking him out, giving him the second Moxie boost, and allowing him to knock out my Gliscor. So what I'm actually going to do here is go right for the Volt Switch, gets the chip damage off onto the Salamence that I need, go out into my Gliscor just to stack it, which will reduce the differential to minus, or just +1 for me, rather than +2, assuming he does not hit himself in confusion, which as you can see he does not. But regardless, that was the safest way that I could have won this game. I could have made it a 2-0 if I decided to go out on a Lopunny and Fake Out instead of, like I stacked my Gliscor first and then I go on a Lopunny, but I didn't want to risk him bluffing me really hard and having Dragon Dance. Like if he had Dragon Dance, actually I guess that wouldn't have really helped anything, but regardless, I could have made the differential +1, but other than that, I'm very happy with how I played with this game. I'm very happy how I prepped. I hadn't brought Manectric the entirety of the season, and the one game it comes, it ends up putting in a lot of work and being a very important piece of this team. So I'm very happy that I ended up bringing it this week. I'm very happy with how the team performed. He prepped very well as well. Unfortunately for him, I was just able to kind of out-prep in a way with Scarf Manectric being able to beat Scarf Salamence, with my Kyurem set actually being able to beat his Tapu Koko 1v1 because he didn't want running Dazzling Gleam. Makes sense why he didn't. Thunderbolt HP Ice works if I have like any other Kyurem set bar like Specs. So again, like it makes sense why he brought the set that he did. But regardless, we were able to win that game 1-0. Very important win. I really kind of needed it after losing to Shoddy next week, and now we do have a realistic shot at the playoffs, and we are going to keep fighting for it. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Next week we are going up against David of the FC Poplio, who replaced Seb earlier in the season. So I hope you're looking forward to that. And with that being said, I will see you next week.